soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigersMLReports.com. I am Rogelio. Sitting alongside me is Yooper and Mike. Chris should be along shortly. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast. And, of course, always at Motor City Metrics on our YouTube channel. And, Like, are you playing around the format?
There we go. You've been getting covered up a bit. Hey.
All right. Let's see here. I also should there we go.
Well, hey, yeah. It's been an interesting week. I still can't believe they're keeping this bullpen thing going. I kind of feels like it's just going to be like this the rest of the year, which is insane. But I figured we'd just start off with that Kansas City series, which I think brought everyone I think you just kind of saw exactly what the rest of the season is going to hold for us through the rest of the season.
I do. I think that's a good idea. But I also think at the same time, there is something that we have to witness together, because we didn't witness this last night. Because admittedly, I went to the Mud Hens game last night, and as soon as I got home, I passed out because it's just. I didn't get home last night until a little bit after. It was like 10:30, 11, and then I can't. You can only commit yourself to so much baseball. I did watch a little bit of the Tigers game, but like I said, it's just a. Yeah,
they're on past midnight. Yeah. Come on, we're grown ass men with jobs. It's late, all right. I get it, man.
West Coast baseball, baby. You gotta love it.
Yeah, good evening to everybody on YouTube, by the way, who's watching us live. But we just have to witness.
High fly ball. Deep center field. Meadows is there. Parker Meadows thieves a home run from Raleigh. He planted.
My favorite part right here is if you go right,
deep center field.
Right there. It's in the no-fly zone. J-Rod should be Parker Meadows squad instead. That was a
Meadows.
It's one of the greatest catches I've seen in a long time.
It's really nice. The cool thing about it, it's kind of the beauty of baseball. It was such a beautiful play. I saw some tweet today where the catch probability on that thing was actually fairly high. I don't know how that measures. But, because we all love our statistics and we all love analytics and we're all about it, on this podcast. But sometimes it doesn't matter. And sometimes it's the beauty of what these athletes can do out there. And that catch, him skying over that fence and reeling that thing back in late in the game to really save the lead. That's what baseball is all about. I mean, that was a good time. And it's bordering on midnight. And I almost woke up my kid when he caught it. So, that was one of the highlights of the season, no question.
Chris, were you up for that or no? Were you?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, I was the old man of the group.
making up excuses for all of us.
Well, though, to be fair, though, I will say this: my brother's friend gave me an edible, and I had that right before, and then I had a beer. And I was taking all my notes and everything. I was doing it, my due diligence, and all of a sudden it hit me like, whoa. And I was just like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, fully looked like but yeah, it hit me all at once, and I just realized it was amateur. Anyway, but yeah, it just hit me at once. But no, it was a great catch, a great game, and the Tigers are finishing up the series tonight with Hannafy going on the hill. And you were talking about this, Mike. How long can we have the bullpen? Again, TBA versus Robbie Ray on Friday against San Francisco, TBA on Saturday, and then Montero on Sunday.
I don't know how you keep that up. Like, I can't believe that they're doing nothing about it. I realize there's not a bunch of options, but at this point, I'm surprised nobody's gotten hurt, really. Like, yeah. I'm knocking on wood here, but man, I thought for sure that you'd see Kenta Maeda just step into maybe 5, 6, 7 innings eater kind of guy, but they're not even using him that way either. And I'm shocked. It's been weird.
Well, you got to believe they're just going to go with the opener format, right? I mean, that's all. And they're going to hope to get 4 innings out of Maeda, 5 innings out of Herter. that kind of thing over the course of the middle innings.
Yeah, it is. I mean, all you're really doing is just changing the roles of players. And so instead of using the bullpen from the 5th inning on, you're starting it right away and then getting the bulk in the middle there. But the weird thing is that we haven't really seen, like, they only let Herter go 3 innings. And they let Salmons go forever. And I think Maeda went 3-4. But they're still really just kind of trying to mix and match as much as possible. And I thought that at some point they would just for the sake of some sort of regularity, right? Some routine, that they would just add some more people to the rotation. But for right now, I guess maybe they think it's a competitive advantage to keep the other team guessing up until 2 hours before first pitch. But I know it's weird. And I will, before Raj hits this, because Stan, what a wonderful gift there. I will say the one thing about Parker Meadows, and you guys maybe touched on it because I was 3 minutes late as usual, is how much, like, I've been tweeting out some stuff about, their record when Parker Meadows plays. And it's kind of tongue in cheek, right? Like, Parker Meadows isn't himself, making them 15 games over 500, but just the overall impact of a play like that. It's not just catching the ball and keeping the Tigers in the lead. It's preventing them from having to face Seattle's closer the next inning, and then they go and tack on more runs. And so then they don't have to use one of their high leverage guys, and they use Hannafy to close out the game. And it's just a little play like that can really save more than just runs. And that's what he does consistently. So it's he's a lot of fun when he's playing.
Oh yeah. I'm going to talk a lot about Parker Meadows later. I have a bunch of stuff about him, but I just think, I just want
to give this a really,
sure.
I want to hit this for Jim Weber.
Off the Frickers building.
Thank you, Stan, for the $19.99. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Stan. That's very generous.
Go ahead and continue, please.
Oh man, I completely lost just Parker
Meadows.
I think that something that we as fans sometimes lose focus on, because obviously how could we know this? We're not in the locker room. I think there's just something about Parker Meadows being there. You're right, Chris. Parker Meadows is not himself giving them a great record when he's playing, but I maybe it's blasphemous to call him this because he's white, but he's a spark plug for this team. All right. Yeah. I'm calling a white player a spark plug. I'm doing it.
He's gritty. He's a ball player.
I don't know, man. Like, it really just seems like he brings something to this outfield that, you're right, it does kind of inspire everybody else around him. And I mean, as a fan, I wasn't worried about that catch at all. Like, I know the way that it was portrayed, but when I saw the highlight, I was just like, I mean, yeah, it's Parker Meadows, guys. Like, I feel like, there's 29 other cities that might not really know, but us in Detroit, I felt like, I think someone else said it earlier too, like, yeah, high catch rate for Parker Meadows, I'm sure, because that's a ball you almost expect him to catch. And I'm not trying to say it wasn't amazing, but it's like, I haven't felt like that since I saw Austin Jackson do a couple of those same things. That's the last time I remember a center fielder really, and I always gravitate towards the center fielder. So I'm a huge Parker Meadows guy.
It's so funny the difference 24 hours makes. The night before he let that ball drop.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Remember, you just, like I said, but then when you have you're 6th in the American League in defensive run saves, I think you're fine. And by the way, the Tigers are, with that win last night, are actually 500 on the road. So they're 29-29 on the year. Another interesting stat about last night too that stood out is that the Tigers clinching that series is the third time in the last 4 seasons in Seattle. So you talk about some of the trips the Tigers have had struggles with Anaheim against the Angels. They just traditionally, I mean, even Oakland's given them fits here and there. Although we'll get to Oakland a little later too, because they came up today. It was last game played at the Coliseum was today, which seems weird in August, but then nothing makes sense with Oakland. So, and thank you, Sean, for the $20, and you also get this
Off the Frickers building.
one of these.
Exquisite.
So thank you, Sean. But yeah, it's one of the things that we will, and another thing I want to kind of progress into with tonight's game too, is Hannafy starting the game. So it's just it is like it's a good old gritty baseball, just going out there every day, and relievers go out there all the time, but it's just still weird to me.
Oh yeah, because he closed the game out last night, and that post I shared from Tigers PR, according to Elias Sports, he's the first Tigers pitcher to finish and then start consecutive games since Steve Sparks in 2000 did it July 26th and July 27th.
Man, that 2000 season. For anybody who remembers that year 2000 season,
I remember. I went to probably 20 games that year because that was the first year of Comerica, and I was living in an apartment like 30 minutes away. So we went there, 3 times a week, and that was rough. Very big outfield, but it's our second Sparky mention in the last couple of shows.
Yeah, get some Steve Sparks some love there. But speaking of the 2000, by the way, real quick before we continue on, Chris had a little bit of the year 2000 with him present yesterday at the West Michigan game as well. Whereas I was at Toledo getting some Spencer Torkelson, Trey Sweeney video. Chris ran into a local legend, Randy Smith. That's right. Randy Smith was in the house yesterday as his son works for the Whitecaps. And so they were there to see, Randy was there to see his son. And I was trying to get Chris to introduce himself. And the one time the living legend Randy Smith was there, I was not. I would have been like, dude, like, just can we talk about for a second here the Damian Easley trade for Haas, please? Can we talk about that trade?
Some other old timer. It was a very strange night with the Whitecaps because we get there and I'm in the press box and David Chad walks in with like 3 Tiger scouts, former Tigers head of scouting, right? David Chad, and he was a VP.
What were you thinking? I mean, no. Hi, how you doing?
And he's there. I don't know if he was doing a favor for Tigers or if he was there scouting for the Phillies or for the Marlins. I don't know what he was doing, but he was there. And then, we come up later, a couple innings later, and there's Randy Smith. And like you said, his son does the Hawkeye. We met him a couple years ago doing it for Erie. Last year he was in Toledo. This year he's in West Michigan. Yeah, he's a great kid. He's probably 23, 24 maybe. And it was just interesting to meet Randy Smith and his wife, and they seemed very nice. And then some other old timer came in and was talking baseball with him. So, and you heard him complaining about, like, the old time guy was complaining about all the stuff now with spin rates and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get involved in this. But it was interesting. I went down there. That's this, second time I've seen Clark and McGonigal in person. First time I've seen Lorenzo. Went out there to see Joseph Montalvo, the guy they got from Texas in the Andrew Chafin deal, and it was a fun night out at the park. And I think you're going tomorrow, right? Let's play.
Yes, and Max Clark. Yeah, Max Clark, by the way, was named the minor league player of the month in July. And so, you know what the pitcher of the month was for Tiger minor league?
The pitcher
RJ Pettit.
RJ Pettit. Interesting.
Yeah. 1 run on 4 hits and with 13 strikeouts and 10 innings pitched, and he held people to 125 average. So there's your fun fact for the day. Skubal, Derek Skubal had a really good game, of course, but Montero's start was what really stood out to me. It was probably his best start of the season. Just efficiency. He struck out the side in the second, getting all excited and seeing those things that we saw in the minor leagues. It was put together a really good start against the team. Seattle's offense has been brutal, absolute brutal, and this is not going to help them at all. I just think they're going to fade quickly in a chance to get in the postseason. It's just they're not enough bats to get in there.
Montero threw both of them for strike 3. I think it was about in the 4th inning, 5th inning. He got out of it. The nicest breaking pitches, nastiest looking things that you're going to see. It was really impressive. I don't know how much of that you guys have seen. When he was here in Des Moines, he pitched a pretty good game. But I really, really appreciated those 2 strikeouts, which is what every pitcher needs to get out of a jam once in a while. That looked like a big leaguer right there. So, and so he's been up and down since he's been with the Tigers. But I think there's something to build on there.
Yeah, I mean, he had 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. It was great. And I think I'm looking forward to see what he might be able to develop into. Like, the strikeout numbers are there. And while Roger is right, Seattle's offense has been downright atrocious all year, really. I still think that it's important that it's still a major league lineup. And Montero needed a game like this. And he's really the only, I mean, yes, it's fun. Skubal is, runner for Cy Young. But when the only other pitcher's a rookie, there's a lot of different expectations and different things you're looking for. So I'm just happy there's something to build on there. And I was actually watching the Seattle broadcast. It's really interesting to hear people talk, because obviously why would they watch Kiner Montero for the Detroit Tigers in Seattle? So they just talked about how he's like having a rough year, and like there's not much there, and like he's not in the future. He just the things that they were talking about him, it's just really interesting to hear an outside perspective. I don't know. I've done that a lot this year because of the Bally Sports stuff.
Well, normally the opposing announcers will talk to that team's announcers or some of those people from that team just to get a better perspective. Like, okay, what's the deal with this kid? He's got a 70 ERA, but what's going on? But maybe they didn't, or maybe they did. Maybe the team told them not so much. I don't know. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, Scooble's so good that we just kind of expect greatness from every time, and that felt like a so-so outing from him. Like, oh, he gave up a couple runs. Get out of here! What a bum. So yeah, it's like more fun to talk about Montero when he has one of his like really good starts. But yes, it should not go unnoticed, of course, that Tarek Skubal is the best pitcher in baseball, and he did good things again. But
I really felt last night he was working all four quadrants. He wasn't just beating him up inside. He wasn't just up in the zone blowing it past. He was all over the strike zone, getting people out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the Tigers kind of needed a start like that, and it's just far as because you have Casey Mize, who's down in Toledo for another few weeks because that's when his IL stint, and
3 weeks.
going 95, 98, we had our intern down there, Colin. So the Tigers are not going to get any innings from the starter. Anytime they get starter innings, if somebody go 4 or 5 innings consistently, that's just going to preserve the bullpen. That's just going to be critical down the stretch, especially against teams that, I mean, you're going to see a lot of those times where you're going to see some questionable bullpen decisions Sunday against Kansas City. And so it's just what happened with Miller. Matt Manning is still on the DL with a quad lad or pulled lad. Is it that
lat
strain?
Yeah. Last ring. So
I would get you somebody. You need to find somebody that trusts you as much as AJ Hinch trusts Shelby Miller this year. Like that. That's what I want in my relationship, because I don't get where the trust comes from. It's one of the biggest mysteries to me, and I don't even think Shelby Miller is terrible. Just it feels like any high leverage situation that AJ Hinch can find for him, he throws him in there, and I don't know. That's the biggest problem I have with them is the way he's been using Shelby Miller lately.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe perhaps trying to save some innings. I don't know. I mean,
trust a veteran guy can bounce back. I think
abusive relationship.
Yeah,
yeah. That's
Well,
a good way to put it.
When there's so many bullpen games, you got to use whoever you got out there.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
The ninth inning against the Royals. I mean, that was you want to talk about the Royals series earlier. It would have been really pretty cool if they could have come back and gotten that split in the 4-game series. And they were 1 out away from it when Melendez took it deep there for the 3-run shot. But I just watched Miller, and I know he had a 1.71 ERA last year, right? I mean, he was one of the better relievers in the National League. But it's just hard to see an out pitch there, something that he can really rely on and lean on night in, night out, where he's going to get people. It's just this whole season he's just looked very plain and hittable.
Well, I mean, the one interesting thing about that is he's actually been lights out against left-handed hitters this year.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until they mentioned it. I think Hinch mentioned it but even after that home run, lefties are hitting 122 against them this year. It's a 177 weighted on base average, basically 9 hits, 22 strikeouts, and 4 walks. So he just happened to make a terrible pitch. It was reminiscent of Joaquin Benoit's terrible pitch against David Ortiz. Like, oh, not that pitch right there. And that, that kind of ruined the weekend after Saturday night, one of the funner games of the entire year. And it felt like they were going to, split the series and then kind of a real gut punch.
Yeah, it was a big kick to the nuts as they head out the West Coast. But
I feel like Chris just activated some trauma for me. Like, I didn't realize I'm still hurting from the Joaquin Benoit closer days of the Detroit Tigers. I forgot that I was still hurting, but that name, you said it, and I immediately flinched. Was like, oh, no.
What an asshole.
But to the Tigers' credit, they came back. They went out to Seattle and they've won these 2 games and they played some nice baseball. I mean, other than letting the one fly ball drop in the outfield, I thought they played a really good game. Both they outpitched them, they outhit them, and they outfielded them until that play on Tuesday night. It was really a nice, clean win. And then, of course, last night was a good one behind Skubal.
So.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there was a question about Manning. Manning's not a non-tender candidate. He's still under.
Well, I think he'll be heading into his first year arbitration.
Yeah, that's what I
thought. So they could non-tender him. I don't think they will.
I mean, we're pitching 3 bullpen days. I swear, you get rid of a starting pitcher in any way, it just looks bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I'm trying to look. Yeah, I don't think they'll non-tender him or Mize, honestly. Well, I mean, Mize, they had that strange kind of 2-year contract, so they may non-tender him and then work something else out. But yeah, I don't think they're going to turn down any arms at this point, given what we've seen this year.
Correct. I would agree.
Yeah. Especially also when we heard 0. I mean, absolutely 0 about Wilmer Flores, who among the prospect circles, and then I'm glad that Brett Hurler is here. But I'm surprised Lyle Lockhart hasn't been getting some consideration. I mean, Hanfey throws a little harder, so I get that. But if they're in the injury there, I would think Lockhart would go there. But so yeah, but I did. But by the way, Ray, I did check out the On the Bench podcast with Jason Benetti. I cannot talk. Dan Dickerson.
Take a seat or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, take a seat. Yeah, take a seat. On the bench. Listen to that, and you can hear Jim Leyland just doesn't even like. I'm sure anybody who brings it up just go pretty much will just probably give them the finger, like, dude, enough. I don't want to hear about it. Shut up. Talk about anything else. My days in Lakeland. I don't care.
I will say my favorite episodes of that podcast so far have been when they talk to AJ Hinch and when they talk to Jim Leyland, and part of it is you could see what makes Hinch such a good manager, and you could see what made Leyland such a great manager. What he's just a good dude. And just the way he talks about stuff and some of the stories, it was just really fun to listen to him again. And he's still, I don't know if he's 80 yet or if he's about to turn 80, but he still seems like he's all there, at least, as much as he can be. And maybe that's just because he felt like he was 80 when he was 35, but it was definitely a good listen if you haven't heard it yet.
Yeah. Listen, it's one of those things. So still, I mean, the 2013 season, even if he brings it up, I'm sure it's probably his therapist is like, listen, bringing it up will help you get a, Hinch is a good manager. What do you mean Hinch is not a good manager?
I mean, whatever. You can, they haven't won a ton under him. I certainly don't blame AJ Hinch for any of that. But yeah, I mean, that was Benetti asked Leyland, if he could coach any team ever throughout history, and he said, "I would like to have another crack at 2013," which is telling for a couple of reasons. And I agree, that was the best team that he had, the best team probably since the 1984 Tigers, arguably one of the 5 best teams in Tigers history, just in terms of overall talent. And they just couldn't get it done. And you could hear how, and it was really interesting. He said you can feel it. He said he felt like they could come back. And then they lost that 1-0 game with Verlander when Napoli hit the home run. And he said that's when he could feel it. He was like, we can't, like, he didn't outright say it, but he said, sometimes you could just tell. You can tell when you're going to lose. And that was when it happened. And I was like, oh, man, that sucks. Because that was, remember, he knew at the time that was his final season. We didn't know until after the season, but he had already told Dombrowski, I think, a month before. So, yeah, tough to go out that way. That's for sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. He was on Friday night, the night before his ceremony. He was being interviewed by Heidi Watney on Apple TV. I was really impressed. He said, as a manager, his philosophy is he had to know when he needed to be, the manager. He needed to know when he needed to be the father figure, the brother figure, or just plain old a friend, And it was really cool because you think of him as just a gruff old dude smoking his cigarettes, right? You could tell he was looking to establish those relationships with his players and tried to have a sense who needed what and when. So I kind of goes in. There's the 3-hour part of the job, right? Every day with the game, but then there's the 21-hour part of the job where you're managing relationships with these players, and I got the sense that was something he really cared about.
His biggest. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Reg. I was just kidding. That's basically what he touched on in the pod too.
And here's the thing. This is where I kind of want to tie in what Bone saying that Hinch is just good at bullpen management, and Sean's look. You agree to disagree.
I have so many opinions on that.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Well, that's
Sparky Anderson is Sparky Anderson could not win. I mean, as great as the manager was, when the Reds got bad and the Tigers got bad, you can only do so much. The fact that Hinch has been able to hang around sub 500 with this team, with all the amount of injuries he's had, I mean, any other manager, I don't think could have been done the same. And you look at the way that the players are, like, even Barry Bonds, as much as the guy's a salty prick, he loves Jim Leyland. And same thing with, like, it doesn't matter across the board. If you're a good manager, you stand out because the relationship you have with your players. You let your players be. If you go in the clubhouse, every time I'm in the clubhouse, it's a quiet atmosphere. And Hinch doesn't have to be in there all the time either. So, I mean, I think that I know everybody's with a record, but Hinch can only do so much. You can't. Riley Green is out with an injury. All these players with all these injuries. You can't. He's not out there hitting the ball.
Roster management isn't on the skipper, man. That's basically what you're saying. Like, he can use the players he has right now. He has 10 bullpen arms and 2 starters. Like, I'm going to complain about the bullpen usage all the time, but I'm also understanding from a perspective that he has 10 relievers, and that's the team he's been given. Exactly.
Well,
Bone, if he's got 4A players, what is he supposed to do with 4A players? He's supposed to manage them the best way he can. And give me another manager that would take with 4A players what Hinch has done in certain cases.
So that's another thing that Leyland said. Leyland basically said, every manager, the greatest manager of all time, they're not so good when their players aren't good. And he was saying, like, he said, AJ Hinch is way better than I've ever been at pinch hitting, at planning things for the ninth inning. He's never caught off guard, things like that. But he said, I also didn't have to. I had a third baseman. I had a second baseman. I had a shortstop. I had regular players. And he said that Leyland thought that was the best way to play. And you see the best teams still do that. The really good teams don't have to run 7 platoons. But that's what Hinch has right now. How many regulars does he have on this team? Honestly. Like right now, none. Right? I mean, Colt Keith, your regular second baseman, right? And then, Riley Green, when he's healthy, that's a regular. And then, Kerry Carper, when he's healthy, that's a regular. But right now he's got 1. So that they're winning any games at all is kind of a testament, partly to Hinch. But again, it's up to the players, and they aren't really there yet. Even still, and we talked about it before, that fun game the other night that Montero won, all those runs were rookies. It was Perez had a couple RBIs. I think Meadows had an RBI. A lot of rookies there. And so that can be tough to manage the ups and downs. So I don't know, I'm not saying AJ Hinch is a Hall of Famer right now.
Right.
But he's doing a good job with what he's been given. And like I said, like Leland said, he's never outmaneuvered by the other manager. He's never caught off guard with, we don't have a lefty, or, I can't do this. Like, sometimes he gets put into a corner and has to do the best he can, but he's managing his butt off this year. How
many years does he have left with the Tigers on his deal?
Well, he just signed an extension, didn't he?
Yeah.
I thought it, and I don't know if we ever got the terms.
Clearly, exactly.
Terms are not available.
Yeah.
He was signed previously through 25, so at least through 26 if it was an extension.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I look at it this way. You look at Leyland in the early 90s with the Pirates when he had a bullpen by committee with Bob Walk, Stan Belinda. Imagine it's kind of a theme, actually. Ironically enough, the Pirates never. I don't think the Marlins really had a closer either when he was
Cecilio Guante.
Guante, I don't even.
I love Cecilio. He was a side armor.
I don't remember that guy, but yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go into inside the numbers. Youper, what's your inside number?
Okay, very simple numbers tonight: 2.08, 43, and 6. So those are the numbers that tonight's starting pitcher for the Mariners, Brian Wu, has put up. In 60.2 innings, he's got a 2.08 ERA. He struck out 43. He's only walked 6 guys, and also only allowed 4 home runs. Now, I won't talk about my fantasy team, but I've watched him pitch several times this year, primarily because he's on my fantasy team. So I have watched him pitch. Real interesting guy. He's been hurt a bit. He's kind of a little fragile. He probably only goes 5 innings most of the time. Occasionally he'll work into the 6th. So the Tigers, it could be a little quiet in the early going tonight. The guy just seems to have a heater that he doesn't strike out, but he gives up really soft contact. It's like it has a little bit of a wiggle to it. Really good movement. Should be fun to watch. He's a fun pitcher to watch. He works fast. He's primarily fastball. So the Tigers have their work cut out for him in the early innings tonight. Hopefully they can make him throw some pitches and get him out of there in the 4th or 5th, because they don't push him very long because of what his arm issues have been. But it should be a fun one to watch.
All right. Mike, what is yours?
So mine is 2. This is the amount of 3-hit games by Tigers first baseman named Spencer Torkelson and Bly Madris each. I was looking into comparing them because look, I know where I'm going with this. Madris is slashing 326, 362, 465. His batting average has not been below 300 since he got his first hit, because his first hit came in a 3-hit game. Spencer Torkelson in 54 games had 2 3-hit games. Bly Madris in 13 games has 2 3-hit games. I'm not trying to say that Bly Madris is better than Spencer Torkelson. It's not where I'm going with this. I just think it's worth looking at that Spencer Torkelson has a long way to go, in that I think that I don't want to say it's underrated, but I keep going back and watching Spencer Torkelson in games earlier this year, and I didn't see an MLB hitter in a lot of the games that he played this year, and he was lost at the plate. And it's just crazy that the Tigers brought up a nobody in Bly Madris, a guy that I feel like we're not looking at him as being an important part of the future, and the dude's lighting it up in 13 games. I know it's 13 games. I just think it's worth pointing out that Torque has his work cut out for him to make the roster, just based on what he did here this year. That's the only important part. Again, I'm not saying Madris is better. Just it's alarming to see the kinds of things he's done that Spencer Torkelson wasn't able to do in 4 times as many games. It's just worth pointing out, I think.
Well, considering like last night I went to the game and he struck out, I think 4 times. Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah, I think he struck out 4 times.
Over 5 with 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, it was 3 strikeouts. So the first 2 strikeouts, and I showed him to Chris. I think I sent the first one to him. There was a plan. The Jumbo Shrimp, aka the Marlins affiliate, had a plan to essentially get him strike out, and they stuck with it. And he did not. Again, when you're playing in Indianapolis, he had a really good weekend. You can look at the stuff and go, okay, cool. But at the same time, there was a number that stood out to me that I'll get to. I'll tell my name in a second, but I'm gonna hide the comment section for a little bit because I'm getting distracted, and I'm just gonna.
All right,
yeah. Anyway, Boston has a better roster than the Tigers. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, so with Torkelson, I will. It was interesting, because over the last month or so, last 5-6 weeks, he's actually hitting for a lot of power, but he's turned into like a Miguel Sano, Joey Gallo. He's walking like 18%, striking out like 35% of the time, and putting up a 300 ISO. And my question for you guys is, would you be okay with that in the big league level? If he's coming up and he's got the 30 home run power, but he's going to be hitting below 230 again, but it's, comes with tons of strikeouts and tons of walks.
I want another Adam Dunn in the league. Hell yeah.
There you go.
Loved Adam Dunn. I'll take Adam Dunn.
Yeah.
And the big part of it is he batting third, is he batting seventh? You know,
He's probably batting in the middle of the order again. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting. You know, he was a guy that never struck out a ton in the big leagues, but he wasn't hitting power at all this year. So it's like, you know what? If you need to strike out a lot more to get to that power, I think I'm okay with it. I don't think it's a foundational piece, but it's something, right? They needed that right-handed power.
And there's always the thing: could it be something that evolves? Right? Right now, he's striking out a lot to get to his power. Does it evolve beyond that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's at least I'm not saying he will, but at least it's a possibility.
So anyway, that was my my little side tangent there. I don't know, Rod, you want to do your number or you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right. So my number is 31 and 8. And that 31 is the number of players over the past calendar year, so since August 8th, 2023, who have at least 300 plate appearances and a negative F4. And that does include a couple of Tigers. You got Joe Urshela there. You got Javi Baez there. The number 8 is the number of White Sox of those 31. They are more than a quarter of those players with the negative WAR. You've got Lennon Sosa, Eloy Jimenez, Nick Senzel, Andrew Vaughn, Corey Lee, Tim Anderson, Andrew Benintendi, and Gavin Sheets. Wow. Now that is how you lose 20 games in a row in 115 plus in a season. You have 8 of the 31 worst players over a full calendar year. It's tough.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that bad, but it's like, I don't pay attention. Who's watching the White Sox? Like, I guess I didn't realize it was that bad. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. If you can look over the last calendar year, that as in offense, they are negative 6.3 WAR. So
28-89. Like it's truly incredible. 61 games under 500. Oh my God.
Yeah. So. It was the imagine some of the manager candidates came up with Chris Fetter, which is like why? Because he's tied to U of M. I understand that, but it was also just it's a matter of who wants that job. I mean, you literally right now you're literally going. You're telling yourself that 2 years, essentially for next 2 years, you're going to start under 500. Like if you're a manager, or even if like you're a manager with some sort of experience, do you really want that? Add that to your record? Like it's just, I like yeah. And you look at Roy Aloy is doing, as Corey mentioned, 5 for 10 since joining Baltimore. And it just. Chicago it's in a position where there's just going to be a pit for a while. So, my insider number this week, because I was been doing some heavy research on Spencer Rogelio, that I wrote that article out last week. But plays into what I saw yesterday. 0.77. That's the batting average of Spencer Torkelson against off-speed pitches in the major leagues. He's batting. This was this season, which is actually a step down from last season when he batted 148. So, career speaking, if you're wondering how many home runs he's had on off-speed pitches, the total is 3. That's it. If you can't hit off-speed and you really can't make that adjustment, you're not going to belong at major league level. Again, simple math here, folks. If you can't hit off-speed, you're a right-handed bat with power, and you can't hit, as Chris has mentioned this on the minor league podcast on Monday, you're not gonna have a job up here. Doesn't matter. So
yeah, got to be able to at least mash lefties, and lefties are going to throw you a lot of changeups and off-speed pitches. So if you can't hit those, that's a tough way to live.
Yeah. So just think about that for a moment. I know people want Spencer Torkelson up here, and I get it. I understand, but if you can't hit off-speed, you can't. You can't make these adjustments. There's a reason why he's down there.
There's no such thing as a can't miss prospect. This is just goes to show. I'm not saying you can't pull out of it, but I heard that term about Spencer Torkelson hundreds of times during that draft cycle. Hundreds of times after they drafted him, before they drafted him. This was a can't miss prospect. And that doesn't exist anymore. And really in any sport, I hate that. Well, in basketball, apparently it does. Everybody was right about Wemby, but we're not going to talk about basketball. That's
exactly. I mean, basketball season's not too far away. Shoot, somebody mentioned earlier, Lions are playing tonight too, so it's already preseason. And
Yeah,
Golden Tate on the broadcast.
I'm so happy we're giving people something else to watch. I was watching that leading up to the show. Oh, and I was telling you before the show too. Oh my God, I forgot how bad preseason football is. Oh my God, the play calling is atrocious. These players, half these guys aren't going to be on the roster. You're seeing terrible sacks. Like it was a mess. And I was like, man, football is not back, is it?
Yeah, I mean preseason NFL. What are they trying to figure out? Like 4 roster spots, and then you're trying not to get hurt. Yeah, it's silly. But I didn't watch any. I don't know. I'm not up on what's going on, the roster battles or anything like that. I know that they brought in that kicker from the USFL, and then
there's no kicker battle, man. They got one kicker on the roster.
So speaking of that, by the way, June and Barry are back doing a Lions stuff podcast over on our network too. So we have our Lions show and a Pistons show. So those guys are coming back here in a couple weeks. So I just want to plug those guys. They did a really good job, and they've done a good job supporting everything. So thank you, Ray. Yeah, that's a stat. It stands out to me. All right, let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly this week. And I will say, I will agree with you, Corey, by the way, before we get in there, the Red Wings do need to have a good season. I'm just glad they're bringing that Patrick Kane so I can hear Ken Daniels he had one of the best calls I've heard in a long time when Patrick Kane scored that goal in Chicago in overtime on a breakaway. Yeah. One of the best, phenomenal calls, just phenomenal. Ken Daniels is a national treasure, and he's awesome. Okay, so I'll start with you, Chris. What is your good and bad deal this week?
So my good is Tyler Fitzgerald. Who this is the second time I've kind of talked about like a late rising. Oh, was I muted?
Oh,
no, you're good.
Oh, sorry. My good is Tyler Fitzgerald. Sorry if I already mentioned that. Second time I mentioned Elliot Ramos not that long ago, but Tyler Fitzgerald's a guy. He's a shortstop for the Giants right now. I think he plays some outfield too, but I remember him as a prospect. He was kind of a highly thought of prospect, but went to Louisville back when they were kind of a powerhouse, like 2016, 2017, 2018. And he was thought as a guy who was going to develop into a first rounder, and it didn't happen. He hit like 270 with 11 home runs in his college career. So the Giants took him in the 4th round, and he just kind of was there. And even he never made a top 100 list, was barely on their top 30 lists, even though he had a 2020 season in 2022 and then a 2030 season last year. And he came up a little bit last year, came up to the Giants this year. And in the last month, he's been like the second best hitter in baseball. He's gone absolutely bonkers. I'm looking at it in the second half of the season, right? Whatever that means. He's hitting 350 with 10 home runs, 5 doubles and a triple in 19 games. And he also stole 3 bases today. So I don't think he's the best player in baseball, but when the Tigers play the Giants coming up, and if he goes bonkers, I just wanted to warn people that this is a guy who's been doing this for like a month now. So he might be pretty good. Or he might just be on an all-time heater. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be. Well, I mean, the Giants need some sort of good news too, based off everything that's been going on with them. So
he has 1180 OPS in the last 30 days, from what I'm looking at. That's insane. In 30 days. Oh,
yeah, he was the National League Rookie of the Month, the counterpart to Colt Keith, I believe. But he's about to turn 27. So it's an interesting thing. It could be a late bloomer. It could just be one of those Brennan Bosch hot streaks. Who knows? But my bad, and I want to remind everybody that usually with my bad, I'm talking about somebody who is not doing so well right now, but isn't necessarily bad in the long term. Just want to forewarn you when I say that my bad is Jackson Jobe. Now, Raj went out there and saw him a couple weeks ago, and this is a very relative thing, right? Like Jackson Jobe is not out there getting bombed like Ty Madden is, right? Like he's not getting destroyed. But ever since he pitched the 6 innings of that combined no-hitter, he's been really pedestrian and actually kind of bad. So he's gone 15 innings total over the last 3 starts, 7 earned runs on 15 hits and 12 walks with 11 strikeouts. Just 26 total swings and misses over those 15 innings. And again, like this is kind of what we want from him. We want him to struggle and see how he can overcome it. But just watching him, he just doesn't look crisp or sharp at all. His pitches don't look great. He's not getting and he swings it. Like I said, he's not getting a ton of swings and misses, and he's not getting hitters to chase. It's like they're all seeing his pitches early out of his hand. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not worried in the long term at all here. But this is basically happened the second we made that video saying, like, call him up. He's ready. And he's not ready. It's pretty clear he's not ready. And I don't know. I feel like he might need to just hop back in the pitching lab and get the shapes on his pitches back, because like I said, nothing looks crisp right now. So that's my bad.
Inside, outside, come around. Who's that? Brown.
All right, there you go. What's the scenario? The scenario here is my ugly. It's cut season in the minor leagues, and we know this is part of the business. We know this very well. It happens every year when the new crop of players come in. Older players have to go out, but it's always tough when you know it's the end of the dream for a lot of these guys, and you can see the writing on the wall a bunch. But in the last week, we've seen the Tigers cut Dan Maurice, De La Cruz, Zach Hess, Jose Cibrian, Gabriel Sequeira, Clive Perez, Chris Maloney, Quinn Gaditis, Alvaro Gonzalez, and Alonso Rubalcaba. There are probably going to be another half dozen to a dozen more over the next week or two. And like I said, it's one of the unfortunate aspects of this business, but it is what it is. There's only so many guys who can continue playing pro baseball, and that they made it in pro baseball at all is pretty amazing. But just like I said, it's the ugly part of the business.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it probably maybe they'll find better pastures somewhere else too. So
yeah.
All right, Yooper, what's yours?
Okay, my good. Been really following Jackson Churio quite a bit lately. The Brewers. The guy has kind of done what Colt Keith did, but maybe even to a slightly higher level. He got off to a very slow start. One of the top prospects in baseball. Well, probably one of the three. He must have been on most top 3 lists, right? Coming into the season. Guy's only 20. He's younger than about 3/4 of Baseball America's top 100 list right now. And he's in the big leagues. His first 50 games this year, hit 210 with an OPS of 582. The last 50 games, 328 with an OPS of 877. Hit 2 home runs today. The guy is coming on strong. He has some Acuna to his game, but maybe a little bit less base stealing. That's about it. The guy, if you get a chance, if you see some Brewer baseball, I don't get to see enough of it here because we're blacked out. So I only get to see clips of it. But he's an impressive athlete, and he's done one of those rookie things where it took some time to adjust, and now he has adjusted. Bad. We already talked about Shelby Miller, so I'm going to wing it here a little bit. Today, for the first time, really, and it may mean nothing because it's just a throwaway little mention by our friend John Paul Morosi, about Chris Fetter being on a list of people that old JP sees as a possibility to go to the White Sox. Now, who knows if that has any validity? It probably doesn't because it's so early in the process. I mean, he put that list out literally about 18 seconds after Pedro Gafal got fired, right? So, but if Chris Fetter is as good as he's been touted as being here, and I think everybody's impressed with his work, offers are going to come from someplace. And people might say, well, why does he want to go to the White Sox? Why would you want to go there? Well, there's only 30 of these jobs. So if you want to be a manager, if he has any inclination to be a manager, I don't think just because the team sucks would keep people away from it. I've often thought he'll go back to college and be a head coach, but who knows? But just know the name is out there, and I'm sure a lot of people are kind of depressed to see that because no one would want to see him go. Ugly. The Olympics. I love the Olympics. I grew up loving the Olympics. One, we need a Cold War again, unfortunately, to make the Olympics really relevant. For those who were around when the Russians were the bad guy, it made the Olympics a lot better. But what I still love the track and field. I watch some of the volleyball and the basketball. There's a couple of new sports I don't even mind. The rugby sevens is actually pretty entertaining. But man, some of these sports that have judges, especially some of the new ones, I'm not doing it. I just can't. The breakdancing, they had the breakdancing guy on today who's supposed to be the greatest breakdancer.
I didn't even know they had breakdancing.
Was it Crazy Legs?
Incredible.
He couldn't really explain how you win. He had no good way of telling us how they judge it and what you got to do to win. And to me, that's more of an exhibition than a sport, right?
Yeah.
Then also the bad news I heard was there's a good chance in the next 2 Olympic cycles that something very close to American Ninja Warriors is going to be an Olympic sport.
Nice.
For those who watched American Ninja Warrior,
They have 3-on-3 basketball now is a thing. So
3-on-3, that's brutal. I mean, I watched some of that. I was just, why? You know,
Americans are terrible at it.
Yeah.
So
skip. Yeah.
You know, as someone who really grew up in the greatest time for the Olympics, besides the boycotts, but just the Cold War aspect of it. What they have now is just kind of the bastard stepchild of it all. It really is. It's just,
I mean, Russia's they're still assholes. I mean, they're engaging.
Oh, they are.
Look at you. Yeah, I mean, look at Ukraine and all that.
But
So,
they were not allowed to participate this year, right? There might be the Russian Federation or whatever it is, the separate thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not as fun when it's
Yeah.
not like the 80s. Actually, there's a board game called Twilight Struggle that's one of the great board games of all time, and it's one of you plays the Soviet Union, one of you plays the United States, and it's just you play through the Cold War. And there is a card in there where you can boycott the Olympics. And if you do, it lowers the DEFCON, and if you play it and the other team boycotts the Olympics and it lowers the DEFCON, you lose. Like, it's, I don't know, it was like a real thing.
I want to check
Olympics
that
being
out.
boycotted. Yeah,
I have it.
Just put aside about 3 hours.
All right, so we got 3 minutes to go through this. Mike, quickly, what is your good and bad deal?
I got him quick. I already talked about all of them like I always do. Parker Meadows is the good. He's a spark plug. He's hit safely in his past 6 games. So right off both stints off the IL, he's hit safely. Granted, it was only 3 games last time. It's only 3 games this time. But he has 2 hits in each of the last 3 games. He had a home run in his second game back this time. He had a home run in his first game back last time. Tigers are 24-14 when he plays. The home run robbery, we went over it. I've already gone over this. I'm just gonna rephrase it. I saw Jed UK, on Twitter. He said something that really I really feel. If Parker Meadows can simply be an average MLB bat, he makes this team so much better. Get above that Mendoza line. That's all I want. And Parker Meadows is going to be a big part of this baseball team going forward. The bad, something I've been holding back all show, Austin Voth in that first game against the Tigers. He did something that I don't think baseball knew could happen. He gave up a 4-pitch walk to Javi Baez. A 4-pitch walk. I think it was possible. I was in my car at the time. I was clapping and cheering. I was hooping. I cannot believe that happened. That's it. If I am on Seattle, I would never let him live that down. I would give him shit the rest of his career. I can't believe that happened. And then the ugly, gone over it a little bit. Just what happens to managers on historically bad teams. Chris already went over, the White Sox have 8 of the 31 worst offensive players in baseball over the last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Pedro Griffol, it was not his fault. We've been kind of getting into managers. He was not going to keep his job, but I kind of liked the hire when it happened. I kind of liked his presence. I liked some of the things he was doing, and it sucks that he's going to live with that stain, and it was because he was given the bare bones of a roster. So I hope he gets another job. I hope it's not Colorado, Chicago, or Miami, because the same thing's going to happen again. That's what I got.
All right. So my good this week is the shout out to the Junior World League World Series in Taylor. They're doing a phenomenal job hosting the tournament here locally. If you live in the Dearborn downriver area here in Michigan, got myself a nice little Central Europe Africa championship because the Barcelona team made it, although they're not. They're getting a little overwhelmed here. Canada upset Mexico, so shout out to them, to the District 5, who have done a really good job running the tournament. My bad is I really don't have, to be honest with you, I really don't have a bad. The only thing I want to say, the only bad I have right now is just it's a pain in the ass to get down to Toledo because the traffic gets on one lane on 75. And my ugly this week was this poor gentleman that has nothing to do with baseball. It was a Serbian CrossFit athlete who was 100 meters away from the finish line swimming, and you see him gasping for air, and he drowned. and nobody, and nobody did anything. I'll send you guys a video link afterwards.
They had no
But
lifeguards, right?
I think there were 4 lifeguards on duty.
There's people around, and they're just watching this dude drown. And yeah, anyway, but yeah, that's just disturbing. The reason why I have no bad this week, honestly, statistically speaking, we're in the beginning of August. The dog days of summer is hitting. There'll be definitely some bad stuff coming up. But a lot of time, go watch the Tigers go for the sweep against Seattle, as then they have a 3-game series kicking off with San Francisco starting tomorrow. For myself, Mike, Youper, and Chris, we'll talk to you Monday on the Minor League Podcast. Until then, have a good weekend, everybody.
Rest in peace, Bill B.
Sorry, rest in peace. Oh, yeah. Bill Bean passed away of leukemia at the age of 60, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Former Tiger was confusingly on the Tigers at the same time as Billy B.
Yeah. At the same time. 5, I believe it was. All right. Good night, everybody.